Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag, the spin-off show, if you will, of AMC Movie Talk, where all we do is take your mailbag questions for the next 30 minutes. I'm your host. My name is John Campy. I'm the editor-in-chief over here at AMC Movie News. So glad that you guys are joining us today. Joining me, first of all, today, and it's, as you guys have guessed by now, we were pre-recording the show because we're getting ready to move into the new studio on Monday, so we pre-recorded a bunch of these shows. Joining me, first of all, sitting to my immediate right, the one and the only Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, but I wear the same shirt every day anyway.
Anyway, yeah, we've had several conversations about this off camera. He never listens, though. Yeah. Also sitting with us, the one and the only, the director of the upcoming documentary, The Death of Superman Lives. What happened, Mr. John Schnepp?
Hey, happy to be here. I've been here for like 5 days. Got really drunk on that Fireball whiskey. Crashed out. John's got really nice carpeting. We were talking about. It gets like very soft and spongy to the feet.
He's only still here because I have Grand Theft Auto 5. He's been sitting over there playing Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, while they've been doing the other shows that you saw the other couple days ago, I was playing Grand Theft Auto, stealing buses and driving them off cliffs.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Let's start with the first question of the day. And you know what? I got to let you guys know something. This is the first time in the history of Mailbag I have not read the questions in advance. I do not know the questions that we're about to have on this show. This could be very interesting. Nice. All right, let's dive into it. First question today comes to us from, oh, gosh, that's the wrong one. You know what, folks? This is funny. I've got the wrong questions lined up here. So give me a second. As I take away a whole bunch of these things and get the right questions. I've got the wrong questions for today. No big deal. This is going to be easy for me to fix. What day is this? This is September 29th, right? Yeah. All right, here we go. Always technical problems when you're trying to record a show on the fly. All right, now let's go into the first question. And the first question today comes to us from Tyler Neihoff, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. Keep it up as always. With the upcoming Superman-Batman movie, if there is indeed a face-off, will there be something to give Batman an edge? And I think it will be Kryptonite. And hear me out, please. In Man of Steel, Kal's ship basically hyper-traveled to Earth, and Krypton exploding sometime after. Since he got there so fast, would it be justifiable to say that it could have taken 30-something years for debris from Krypton to reach Earth and a certain billionaire to get his hands on it at first, as in Luthor or Bruce even? Thoughts? Well, Schnepp, let's start with you. Could we see Kryptonite introduced into this world because the fragments of Krypton are now hitting Earth?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we talked about this in an earlier show, like about 2 weeks ago. That Kryptonite, Batman's probably going to have a Kryptonite Batman suit when he's going to have the edge, and if he doesn't have the edge, Lex Luthor's going to have it. So, we're hoping that Lex Luthor's in, Batman vs Superman. We don't know.
We don't know that for sure. Yeah,
I see Kryptonite playing a large role in the sequel.
Dennis?
Yeah, I think it has to be, and also when you ask when they possibly face off, they're going to face off. There's no way that Batman and Superman are not going to fight or have some sort of altercation in the movie. So that's pretty much a given. Kryptonite's not a given, but it's most likely.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we know for a fact that they are going to be facing off because, like, at Comic-Con, I got my hands, one of the WB reps gave me an advance, before they made the announcement, they gave me an advance a copy of their press release, and in it they talked about the two greatest superheroes of all time face off in this blah blah. We know they're going to go toe to toe. The very fact that Zack Snyder referenced and quoted The Dark Knight Returns, in which Batman and Superman fight it out, we know it's going to happen. Look, it doesn't have to be Kryptonite, but I'm having a hard time imagining what else it could be. If Batman is going to fight Superman, Superman's a god. Batman has to have something. And it's not just a really good, packing a 9 or anything like that. It's got to be something significant. It's got to be Kryptonite.
It has to be.
The only other thing I can possibly imagine is, look, we know there's going to be a lot of Kryptonite technology laying around after the battle that they had in Metropolis, right? So I get that. Maybe Bruce is able to get his hands on something that is able to give him some kind of edge or power up. Maybe it's not about powering Superman down. Maybe it's about Bruce powering himself up. I mean, I don't know. But it's difficult to imagine it not being Kryptonite. They held off on introducing Kryptonite in the first one, which is great. I'm okay with them bringing in Kryptonite, and it seems to make sense.
Yeah. Well, they made allusions in Man of Steel to Kryptonite. They didn't call it Kryptonite,
right,
but they said, oh, he got weaker when he approached the Kryptonian whatever.
Right, because it's creating a Kryptonian environment.
Yes.
And that he'd be weaker in that.
And they had chunks of the planet was still on their spaceship outside. You saw like a bunch of like planet, like, you know, asteroid looking things that were encrusted around it when they were like asleep. So
yeah, seems to make sense. All right, let's move on to the next question. The next question today comes to us from Jamison Plakon, who writes, "Hey, AMC Movie Talk, love the show." Thank you so much, Jamison. My favorite comedy is Dumb and Dumber, so of course I am excited about the sequel. My question is, with them saying it will be better than the original, do you think they will keep the PG-13 rating that the original one had, or go for an R rating this time around, since most comedies seem to lean towards R lately? I gotta disagree with you. I don't think most comedies lean towards R. I think we see a number of high-profile R-rated comedies, but I don't think the majority of them are R. I think they're going to keep it PG-13. I do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that for a movie like that. Like, you watch Dumb and Dumber, and it's not a flat-out R, and it's one of the funniest films ever made. So I don't see why would you make it R and reduce the amount of potential audience that could go to it. Although, let's face it, the people who are most excited about Dumb and Dumber are people who'd be old enough to go to see a rated R film anyway. But still, if you don't have to do it, and from looking at the first Dumb and Dumber, I don't see a need to make it rated R. Why not? Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to like comedies more if they are rated R. However, this is a case where the first one was hilarious, and the second one doesn't need it because of the type of humor that it is.
Right.
I mean, it's about two really, really stupid people. Right. So I don't think you need to interject anything that is R-rated or adult in there for it to be funny. So I think they're going to stick with PG-13, and I don't think it's necessary.
Schnapp?
Yeah, I mean, the first movie, like just seeing a picture of both of those guys together made me laugh for like 5 minutes. Just that one, just seeing that it's actually finally happening. I don't know if that would happen with Ghostbusters 3, but like seeing this sequel, which I never even thought they were going to make one, seeing that they're doing those characters again, I cannot wait. And I didn't even realize that the first one was rated PG-13. But if they can get away with Daniels on the toilet, like having a massive diarrhea attack,
that was one of the funniest scenes in the history of film.
I mean, it doesn't have to go R. I mean, I just can't wait to see the movie. I don't think it has to be R. PG-13. Let more kids see some of the funniest acting that's been ever put to film.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the third question today, and the third installment of our question session comes from Jacob Van Houten. I'm really sorry, Van Houten, if I'm mispronouncing your name. Anyway, greetings and salutations, movie talkers. Do you think that any old James Bond film can be remade? I think at some point, some of the bad ones and or good ones could be remade and be just as good or better. Thanks. Well, yes, you absolutely could remake some of the old James Bond movies and make them better, because some of the old James Bond movies suck. James Bond is a celebrated institution of Hollywood filmmaking, absolutely, but let's not beat around the bush. Some of the old Bond films are terrible, so you could, but James Bond is the type of character to me that you can go in any direction with him. You can have him in any kind of adventures. There's no real need to go back and remake one of the old ones. I just don't see why they would, when really the world is their oyster. When James Bond gets too old, switch out and put in a new James Bond and start fresh. Do whatever. It just doesn't feel like they would have to when there's the world in front of them to do whatever they want. Schnapp, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't really see like a reason to like have Daniel Craig be in a remake of Moonraker.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a lot of the James Bond movies are spy movies of their time.
Right.
With with this one character that we see, transform, just like Doctor Who. Different actors take this role of 007 and then make a reflection of the world that we live in now. So, I mean, if they were to remake, like what was it, Casino Royale? It's like, yeah, they made a comedy version in the '60s, and now here's the serious version with Daniel Craig. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like once they run out of original short stories and now they're like the well is dry, they could try readapting something, but why not also just keep going with new stories?
Dennis?
Yeah, and also my memory's a little fuzzy on the older ones, but some of the storylines for the older James Bond stuff were just really silly.
Yep.
So the current James Bond is a much more serious, realistic take, like they saw the success of the Bourne films and they kind of wanted to mimic that. And so I don't see them recreating these things unless they want to modernize the plots to them, you know? So
yeah, I couldn't see in a modern James Bond film you getting away with calling a character Octopussy. And not this tone. Not this kind of film. All right. Let's move on to the next question. The next question that we're taking today comes to us from Tony Garcia, who writes, "Hey guys and girls, love the show. Keep up the great work. Been a fan for about 6 months. So, recently you guys gave your top 5 comic book movies of all time. And I have to say I was disappointed by all of you, John. Mainly because you didn't have Man of Steel as number 1. What is going on? Please explain. As a video editor myself, I thought that the movie was just great and epic. I have to say, as of right now, this is the best movie ever for me. The script was amazing. The development of the characters was just amazing and was there. The story was amazing, and you can see the struggle happening with everyone. This is what makes a great movie in my eyes. But you gave Avengers number 1. For me, I know it's hard to make a comic seem real, and sometimes we just want a great movie, but you have... Pardon me, guys. I'm choking on a kernel of popcorn. Great movie, but also you want to have it feel real. And with Avengers, it wasn't. But with Man of Steel, it felt real. Hope you guys see this message. Keep on rocking on. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Tony. The reason I mean, look, everybody knows I really liked Man of Steel. It's still, as of right now, we're getting into the end of September. It's still my favorite movie of the year. I loved it. But you know, you look at a movie like to call it the number 1 comic book film of all time. I mean, number 1, its fan rating isn't nearly as high as a lot of the films that we had above it. Its critic rating wasn't nearly as high as a lot of the films put above it. I loved it. My favorite movie of the year, but to me, it didn't come close to Avengers. I think Avengers was far overall more fun. It was a much more overall better experience for me at the theater, but I loved Man of Steel. And I think you're going to find a lot of people out there who didn't even think Man of Steel was a good movie, let alone the best movie, best comic book movie of all time. But for me, yeah, like I didn't have Avengers or Man of Steel. I don't think I have it in my top 3 of all time comic book films. But for me, when you're comparing it to Avengers, it just didn't come close to the overall experience I had in the movie theaters. It's just a lot more fun for me personally. Not saying that you shouldn't have it at number 1. That's great. All films subjective. You ask me why I don't have it at number 1. That's why I don't have it at number 1. Schnapp, what about you?
Yeah, it's definitely not my number 1 superhero movie either. Sorry, Tony Garcia. Your weird, extra long letter about how weird we are for not having it number 1. It didn't convince me. It's still not number 1. Avengers is number 1 because it really is the culmination of all these different superhero films on their own, which were great. Thor, Captain America, Iron Man.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the Hulk movies, but then you put them all together and magic happened. And I mean, Man of Steel is a great superhero film. And I thought that it was an amazing reboot of what a legendary character Superman is, to see it done so well, but it's just not in the same league as far as for my taste and what I enjoyed. So,
right. Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that Tony, that's your favorite comic book movie of all time. I actually liked it, but I didn't even like it as much as you guys did. So for me, I don't even know where I would rank it. It'd probably not even be in my top 10 comic book movies of all time. And you know, we talk about film as subjective. I loved Avengers. It's probably in my top 3, maybe top 5 comic book movies, but it's not my number 1. So,
which is your number 1?
Well, yeah, what is your?
I probably would say The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight's probably.
I was going to bring up The Dark Knight. That's like pretty much my second.
Yeah.
Like that's like one of the best made superhero films using Batman ever made. So.
Right. All right, let's move on to the 5th question today. And the 5th question comes to us from Kenneth Hernandez, who writes, "Good mates, my question is about the storytelling of Fast and Furious and Star Wars. They both take similar approach because their next films both take place after what happens from their original 3rd movies. Is this a rare or new method of storytelling? What do you guys think? Keep up the great show." Well, let's be really clear here, Kenneth. You can't compare them. There is no similarity between Fast and the Furious or Star Wars or how the stories are told. In Star Wars, the chronology of everything is an epic part of what makes the story. Now, I hated the prequels, but still, everything builds on top of everything else. What we're about to see in Episode 7 is a direct continuation of what happened in Episode 6, or also known as Return of the Jedi, the 3rd film in the original things. Whereas with Fast and the Furious, 99.9% of people out there don't even realize that the 3rd Fast and the Furious films happened later than the events of Fast and the Furious 4, 5, and 6. Nobody even knows because it's not important, it's not pivotal. It's not until we get to the end of Fast and Furious 6 and we see Han dying in there, it's like, oh, that happened there. So it kind of, in a very, very loose way, ties together that way. Now we see the timeline. It's very different from that of Star Wars, which is a very definitive, we are episodes 1, episodes 2, episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, and now going into 7. So they're not similar in their approach or in anything whatsoever. There is a minor coincidence there, but I wouldn't say it's a trend of anything, and I certainly don't think they're similar in any way, nor are they sharing any kind of a trait. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fine. It's just the way it is, but that's how I see it. Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't even seen all of the Fast and Furious. I think I saw 1, 2, 5, 6, you know?
Same here.
And, you know, to be honest, I didn't even like Fast and Furious until 5, you know?
Yeah,
and
me too.
I like 5 and 6, and they're a lot of fun, but story is definitely not the thing that kept me entertained or even keeps me coming back to the franchise. It's just a good time, and I don't even remember what happened in any of the movies.
I did hear Mark Hamill was going to be in Part 7, so that I could see that, you know, there's going to be some
Star
stuff.
Wars link.
Yeah, there's a Star Wars link. Plus, this is the 7th movie, and then this is the 7th movie. I see some kind of link there.
Okay, conspiracy theories.
There's definitely some kind of conspiracy going on, guys.
Okay, well,
Vin Diesel holding a lightsaber while he's driving one-handed with a car.
Well, really, Fast and the Furious is the sequel
Right.
to the whole Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, it's one giant 7-episode prequel to a long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel's going to be racing Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
Around Saturn, yeah.
Yoda is going to be in a muscle car. I'm hungry now.
All right, let's get on to our last question of the day. And the honor of being our last question today goes to Jason, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. Enjoying hearing everybody's input on topics. My question/concern is, does anyone else agree that comic book films lose steam or just get worse by the time they reach their third film, like X-Men 3, Spider-Man 3, The Dark Knight Rises, Iron Man 3? After realizing this, I'm actually concerned with comic book trilogy endings. Your thoughts on this trend, or am I crazy? Anywho, keep up the awesome work and bring some filthy." So, Schnepp, what about you? What's going on with the third films in these comic book series franchises?
Well, he didn't mention Superman 3. Obviously, the best Superman. Oh, wait a minute. That's not true. He's right. I don't know. He really mentioned something, and there is a conspiracy out there. It's the third film. So, the third one, they're like, everyone's tired. They're like, just make it, finish it, put it into a box set. I don't know. I'm out of here. Where's my check? I don't know if that happens or not. But I loved Iron Man 3, so I don't think, I don't think that falls into that conspiracy theory of the third film blowing. I didn't like Dark Knight Rises falls definitely into that zone for me. But, hey, everyone's opinion is different, I mean, I know Dennis loved Spider-Man 3, right?
Oh, yeah. Emo Peter Parker.
Emo Peter Parker. Here's the other thing to keep in mind, too. It's not just comic book films. A lot of films that get into a third film have trouble, or even into a second film have trouble. Spider-Man 3, definite drop off the cliff. X-Men 3, definite drop off the cliff. Even though I didn't absolutely hate X-Men 3. I'm not somebody who enjoyed it, but I thought it had a few more redeeming qualities than most people say it did, but definitely the weakest of all the films. Dark Knight Rises was absolutely the weakest of that franchise. I have no doubt about that. But I agree with you. I thought Iron Man 3 was a step up from Iron Man 2. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we can see this, but it's right. It's difficult. Some film fans, man, we sometimes think, we're all guilty of this. Sometimes we just think making a really good movie is easy. And, if it was easy, it wouldn't be 0.0001% of the population who can make them. It is hard, man, to make a good film. On every step of the way, you can write a script that looks like it's going to be fantastic. You can shoot. I've talked to filmmakers, man, where they've shot films, and while on set making the film, they thought, this is awesome. This is turning out so good. And then they sit in the theater with the audience later and realize, this wasn't so good. I mean, it is hard making a great film. So when you can get a franchise, let's say, for example, the X-Men franchise. You make the first movie and it's great, that's rare. You're going to try your luck again and roll the dice again? Okay, make a second one. And it's great again?
And better.
That's even more rare. You're going to do it a third time? What are the odds that all three will be great? The odds aren't great. At some point, a movie isn't going to be great. I mean, it happened with the Dark Knight series because Part 3 was poor. I mean, you know, I didn't hate it, but I know some people on this panel hated it. But you know, it was definitely the weakest. At some point, you know, Sam Raimi stuck around for a third film. You keep rolling the dice. Eventually, you're not going to roll 7. Eventually, 3 is going to come up, or Snake Eyes. And I think you can't ignore that. That's eventually what's going to happen with the franchise. Except for in very rare occasions, you know, Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi, all magnificent. Godfather's 1, 2, and 3. Whatever you say about 3, still got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. You know, so there are definitely trilogies that can work and be great, and it happens, but it's rare for a reason.
Yeah, I don't think that it's just for comic book movies. I think it's just for movies in general. I mean, you know, Lethal Weapon 3 wasn't the best out of all the Lethal Weapons.
That's a good example.
Might I mention The Pusher trilogy by Nicholas Winding Refn? See that. The third one is just as brutal and horrific as the first 2. Watch it as a trilogy, and it really works. So that's one trilogy that smokes it. Same with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. If you watch all 3 of those Swedish films, they're fantastic. So,
Toy Story 1, 2, and 3.
Toy Story 3.
Lord of the Rings.
So there's a lot of trilogies that work, just perhaps not in the superhero genre. So
yeah, and it becomes extra difficult too, because what we learned a lot prior to the first X-Men film was trying to get a superhero movie at all to work was difficult. Because what did we have? We had Superman.
Right.
We had Christopher Reeve Superman, and that's it. Nothing else they even tried to get off the ground remotely worked.
Batman Forever with Val Kilmer. And I was like, wasn't as bad as Batman and Robin, but you know, it didn't really reach where, you know, Catwoman and the Penguin did with Batman Returns. So.
All right, folks. Well, I hope that answered that question. Thank you so much for joining us. We've run out of time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And listen, we're very excited. Tomorrow is the first day back, not back. Tomorrow is the first day in our brand new studio. It is the beginning of Phase 2 for AMC Movie Talk. Thank you so much for being a part of Phase 1 and coming along with us. We're so excited for the new studio. We hope you guys like it. It'll still be the same gang of idiots doing everything that we've done all the time. So don't worry, that's not going to change. Same format and everything, but just a really cool new environment with upping the production value a bit, I think, to give you guys what you deserve. And we think you guys deserve the best, and we're going to try our best to do that for you. I want to thank, first of all, joining me today, the one and the only Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter @ThinkHero and on Facebook, just my name.
The one and the only, the director of the upcoming film, The Death of Superman Lives. What Happened, Mr. John Schnepp. John, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Twitter, and you can find me on Instagrams and other places like that.
And you can find me on Twitter @JohnCampia. You can find me on Facebook @JohnCampia AMC. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campia. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Become one of our subscribers on YouTube. Until next time, bye-bye.